Hello and welcome to the Theatre of Dreams, your definitive destination for all the action and analysis from the 2018 World Cup. I'm Rahul Dalal and I have two-time I-League winning coach Ashley Westwood here with me. And we must admit, Ashley, that in terms of our predictions for Tuesday's matches, we didn't really hit the mark. Those wins for Japan and Senegal have added that missing element, of the underdogs getting a big win at this World Cup, haven't they?
Yeah, for sure, and it gives all the other underdogs a chance and a bit of belief. It was certainly a coupon buster, as we call them back home, a betting disaster if you was tipping the favourites. But you know, when big incidents in games happen in the first few minutes, like the Colombian game, it's always going to be up against it. And it just shows you that you can never quite predict what's going to happen in football, and it can be a strange game at times. Absolutely.
Portugal, Spain and Uruguay are in action today. We're going to build up to those three matches just a bit ahead on the show. And I'm going to go over to Ashley now to speak about that match, because Ashley, it was another result that we didn't quite expect. A convincing performance from Russia, and a bit of flair in it as well. Not nicking a
side of the Russians now. Obviously, 8 goals in 2 games is a fantastic return. I think they were fortunate playing the Saudis in the first game. Obviously, we see some terrible defending by Saudi Arabia, and that's really lifted the Russian side and given them some real confidence. You know, they're playing with flair as well. They've got a nice interchangeable system with the 4-2-3-1. They're using that fairly well. They've also got the added dimension of Zuba up front, who's a big striker. And like I say, they're scoring goals for fun. So it's now all of a sudden, I think the nation are believing that. Obviously, these now are certainties to get out of the group, but they're now believing there's a chance to go a little bit further. What might hamper them is that obviously Group A play Group B, so they might end up facing Spain or Portugal the next round, which could be tough for them.
You expected, a lot more from Egypt, didn't you, in the match yesterday, because they had the lift with Salah coming back in. They missed his creativity in the first match. But he wasn't really, able to get into the game much. Looked a little rusty as well for you?
Yeah, it took him a while to get going. He got tackled fiercely a couple of times as well, which would have been certainly an element of the Russian game plan, was to stop Salah, like we see against Brazil with Neymar. It was tough for him. It's always hard coming off from like a 4 or 5 week layoff, and obviously the expectation, everybody's believing he's the missing key. But as well as we talk about the confidence for Russia by winning 5-0, you have to think about how much damage losing 5-0 can do to the Saudis, which we might see in the next game as well.
Talk to us about how things changed in the second half, because while there were some chances for Russia to start with in the opening 45 minutes, nothing too clear-cut, but then you had that horrendous, rather bizarre own goal from the Egyptian captain, and the floodgates just opened.
Yeah, the first half was quite even. You know, it's a little bit scrappy at times. I don't think we see one clear-cut chance. I don't think there was a shot on target. But then obviously the own goal was one of the worst you'll see. Real poor technique. Ended up coming off his shin. Should have steadied himself really and gone with the side foot. And then all of a sudden the crowd are on the feet. You know, the Russians are at home, if you like. They get behind. They remember winning 5-0. They're now 1-0 up, and all of a sudden, they look really confident, and they really put their foot down to the pedal then.
Speak about Denis Cheryshev, because, this is a player who would have started the World Cup thinking he's going to spend a lot of time on the bench, because he wasn't part of the starting 11. But then Zagoev gets injured in the first match. He comes on, he gets 2 goals there, he gets another great goal in this game. A fantastic performance from him.
Yeah, it was, and he's picking up some fantastic positions. Obviously, he's left-footed. He's playing on the left of a 3. That's not really his natural position. You know, normally you'd probably see him as a number 6, number 8 midfielder, or possibly a number 10. A box-to-box midfielder. But with him being on the left-hand side, the positions that he takes up are really something else. It's tough for the opposition to mark him, and we can look at it as well if you want on the tactical. Obviously, Russia, we know that they start with this 4-2-3-1. Egypt was exactly the same. But if we're talking about Cheryshev and we're talking about his position, his position for me is what's key. Now, he plays on the left-hand side in this kind of position, but because he is he's a central player. When the ball's on the right-hand side where it is now, he starts coming across into these kind of positions. At times you see him into these, where he got his goal in the previous game. But in this game, when the cross came in, he's almost into this kind of position across the centre forward. I think Zumba was the man that was in these kind of positions. It can either be a full-back getting down the wing, if you like, with the ball played to him. But like I mentioned, all of a sudden you see Cheryshev you know, he's making these runs from here all the way across Zumba. Obviously, the defenders retreat a little bit, and the ball was cut back to him. And the rest is history, as you say. You know, he scores a great goal. So it's that position, really. It's who marks him. You know, really the full-back is the one that marks him, but you don't see a full-back coming all the way across here. So it's communication that's needed. You have to pass on to other defenders, and people have to be aware of him. It may be a retreating midfielder, but he is getting some decent positions, and that's the reason he scored 3 goals.
And Egypt did sort of invite a lot of this trouble on themselves, didn't they? Because I think you pointed out that you felt their backline was playing far too deep. Yeah,
I thought what was instrumental in the game was Zuba, obviously the big forward. You know, he's a real handful up front. We know that anyway. We know he can cause a lot of trouble in these kind of positions. You know, he's a big target man, hustler and a bustler, if you like. And it's the long balls. You know, the goal he scored, he's probably ended up chesting the ball round about this kind of position on the edge of the box. And for me, the back 4 are far too deep. You know, it was nothing more than just a long ball into him. I think contesting the long ball was a central midfielder. The back 4 have dropped off because they're scared of his physicality, and then he brings the ball down on his chest, which for me is a no-go. You know, you shouldn't be chesting the ball on the edge of the box. The back 4 should be up. They should be contesting it, and they should be heading the ball this way, which they didn't. So he chests the ball. He out-muscles the central defender, to be honest, and then he finds himself in this kind of position with only the goalkeeper to beat. And obviously we know he provided a great finish, which was just inside the far post, but that happens when you get physically roughed up as a back 4 or a central defender. You naturally start to drop because you don't want that physical contact, and it enables people to bring the ball down on the chest, and that shouldn't happen. A real poor goal if you was a head coach of the Egyptian side.
Okay, so not a great match from Egypt's point of view, but a fantastic result from Russia's. They've got 2 wins from 2 now, which means that they are literally on the brink of the knockouts.